You ever realize too late that someone mistook your silence for weakness? That's what happened the night the internet dropped out in my neighborhood, and I found out the HOA had cut it on purpose. What they didn't know was, I built the system, and I own the tower. I live up on Cedar Hollow Ridge, a quiet little mountain loop where most folks mind their own business. I came out here after 10 years in cybersecurity, wanting to downshift a bit, clear my head. I still do freelance work remotely, mostly during storms when other people can't get online. Funny how that works. I'd set up a private repeater system years ago, nothing fancy, just a mesh node tower 2 miles up the hill on land I bought before the housing boom. It kept my cabin and about 24 homes connected when satellite went out, which was often. Nobody paid me for it, and I didn't ask. I just liked knowing it worked. Until a woman named Connie Belridge decided it didn't. She moved in last spring. Tall hair, big glasses, attitude, even taller. Somehow she got herself elected president of the HOA in 3 weeks flat. You'd think we were a gated country club instead of a patch of cabins in the woods. First thing she did was push through new appearance standards: no visible antennas, no utility sheds taller than 4 feet, no unsanctioned wireless emissions. Her words, not mine. At first, I ignored it. My antennas are camouflage disguised as owl boxes, weather vanes, that sort of thing. And the main relay wasn't even on HOA property. But Connie wasn't one to let facts interfere with a crusade. Then came the thunderstorm. It was a loud one, cracked the sky open just after sunset. I was halfway through uploading a client report when the Wi-Fi dropped. Cell bars too. Nothing. I rebooted, checked diagnostics. My tower was broadcasting just fine. The fault was downstream. Someone had cut the connection feeding into the HOA subnet. I pulled on a coat and hiked down to the utility shed. There was a new padlock, fresh no trespassing signs, and a note duct taped to the door. All third-party signals suspended pending compliance review. I stood there in the rain, blinking. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so unbelievably stupid. Next morning, I called an emergency meeting. Connie showed up in a pastel pantsuit with her little clipboard like she was about to audit a nuclear site. I brought a thumb drive. On it, drone footage of her and her vice president, Carl, digging around the fiber hub in the middle of the night. No permits, no tech knowledge, just wire cutters and smug grins. You can't just hijack infrastructure, I said, especially during a storm. This system runs security cams, medical devices, even weather alerts. Connie looked me dead in the eye and said, "This community has a right to control rogue transmissions. We don't know what your system is broadcasting." "I'll tell you what it's broadcasting," I said. "Safety, access, stability. Things your HOA seems allergic to." She sniffed. "We'll be implementing our own network soon. Professionally managed." I almost laughed again. "By who, Carl?" "The guy who thought a coax cable carried electricity." Carl turned red. Someone chuckled from the back. A few neighbors stood up and started asking questions about their security cameras, their telehealth appointments, their emergency texts that didn't come through. Connie tried to steer the meeting back. "We must uphold visual harmony and standardized infrastructure. That tower," I said, "is on private land I own. And it doesn't just serve us anymore. I've been working with the regional fire department. They use it now for backup telemetry during wildfires." She went quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Well, then maybe the county should buy it from you. That way we can manage who gets signal." I stared at her. "You don't want to manage signal, Connie. You want to manage people." The room went dead still. It was like the air changed. 2 days later, I rerouted the entire mesh system. Took the HOA subnet offline and spun up encrypted point-to-point access for individual homes, secured, decentralized, out of their hands. I sent a memo explaining why. By sundown, my inbox was full of thank you notes. Connie? She called the county to complain. They laughed. She tried to file a cease and desist. Turns out you can't shut down a system you never owned. But the final blow? That came when the local sheriff called me up. Said they wanted to include the tower in their emergency alert network for the region. Called it a vital piece of community resilience. They issued a formal partnership. Suddenly, my little homemade tower was listed as critical infrastructure. And guess who had to sign off on that paperwork? Connie. She resigned 3 weeks later. Claimed hostility from tech extremists. Most folks just stopped showing up to her meetings. I still live up here. Still tune the repeater, still walk the trails. The tower's been reinforced, the mesh upgraded. Last month, a local college student used it to live stream her remote graduation to her grandparents. The same tower Connie called a visual pollutant. Sometimes I think about how close we came to losing more than just Wi-Fi. When someone confuses authority with ownership when they try to gatekeep access to basic connection, that's not just bad policy. That's dangerous. So yeah, maybe I was just the guy with a few antennas and a stubborn streak. But when the storm hit, I was the one who kept the lights blinking. And now I'm asking you, what would you have done? Would you have let the HOA bury your tower under red tape? Or would you have thrown on a raincoat and stood your ground? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the strongest signal is the one that pushes back. Funny thing is, I never meant to make waves. I just wanted to be left alone, do my job, maybe help out where I could. But when someone like Connie tries to weaponize rules to control people instead of serving them, well, sometimes silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's just waiting for the wrong person to push too far. About a month after the vote to dissolve her board, I ran into Carl at the town supply store. He looked sheepish, standing there with a box of Ethernet cables and a confused expression, like someone trying to read Greek on a potato chip bag. He muttered something about just following orders. I told him he ought to follow service manuals next time and left it at that. But not everyone walked away bitter. There's this older couple, the Monroes, who live 2 cabins down from me. Mrs. Monroe bakes these insane lemon bars, and Mr. Monroe turns out he'd been a telecom engineer back in the 80s. He stopped by one afternoon with a bottle of bourbon and a grin. "Saw what you did with that routing table," he said. "Elegant stuff. Let me know if you ever need a hand testing redundancy." Now we meet up every other Saturday, check signal strength, tune gear, sometimes sit in silence watching the LEDs blink on and off like stars talking to each other. I guess what I'm trying to say is, the story didn't end with Connie stepping down. It ended with something quieter, but stronger. Folks started showing up for one another again. We built a shared shed for spare cables, batteries, backup routers. The old HOA office got converted into a community tech nook with a couch, printer, and yes, reliable internet. No password required. One night, we had a windstorm knock a pine into the transformer by the trailhead. Power cut out. Phone's dead. But within 5 minutes, our network flickered back to life thanks to the solar array I'd helped the Monroes install last fall. Kids were able to message their parents. One woman streamed instructions for her insulin pump from a saved cloud backup. A man across the ridge who works night shift dispatch was able to radio in a stuck hiker's coordinates. And all of Ivory packet of data, every heartbeat of the system ran through that same tower Connie tried to shut down because it didn't match the paint scheme in her binder. Sometimes I wonder if she ever drives past it now. It's still standing cleaned up, repainted, with a new weatherproof housing and a small sign beneath that says, "Connectivity by Community." But here's the real kicker. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter handwritten, no return address. Inside was a short note. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I forgot what neighborhoods were supposed to be. But you didn't. CB. No apology. No name. Just enough space to start again. I stood there on the porch reading it while the sun slipped behind the ridge. The wind picked up and I watched the trees sway, watched the repeater light pulse once, twice, then steady again. So maybe this wasn't just a story about Wi-Fi or HOA rules or even power. Maybe it's about remembering that the strongest systems, digital or human, aren't built on control. They're built on trust. On people quietly doing the work, even when nobody notices. Until it matters most. So now I'm turning it to you. Have you ever seen a system, big or small, saved not by authority, but by ordinary folks just refusing to quit? Or maybe have you ever been Connie, thinking you're protecting something when really, you're just choking it? Drop your story in the comments. Don't hold back. Because connection, that real, messy, human kind, it starts right there. And if this storm taught me anything, it's that every signal needs someone willing to stand in the rain and keep it alive.